everybody. Welcome back to the Cosmic Weather Report with Renn Butler, Alex Stein, and myself, Kyle Buller. I'm one of the co-founders here at Psychedelics Today and Director of Education and Training. So we had some comments in one of our last YouTube channel just around astrology. And I think just for some context, why are we having this on Psychedelics Today channel? And for those that haven't been following Psychedelics Today for a while, our lineage is really deeply rooted in transpersonal psychology and the work of Dr. Stanislav Grof. He's definitely been one of my biggest influences, along with Joe, our other co-founder. And this is something that Stan has been a little bit more open about, archetypal astrology. And so just wanted to say that this is in the lineage of our tradition to some degree, and really just wanting to highlight Stan's work. And we actually just recorded with Stan not too long ago, a few weeks ago, which will probably be public in another few weeks, still in the editing process. And, you know, it's fun to hear him talk about astrology as well in this. And I know that it seems kind of controversial for a medical doctor to kind of have more interest in astrology. But from the transpersonal perspective, I think it's really important. So, we just want to keep coming back to why are we doing this series? And I want to just read something that Stan wrote. This is on holotropic research and archetypal astrology. You can find this in the Journal of Archetypal Cosmology, and we can paste a link in the show notes here. But Stan was just talking about how it was really hard to predict what could come up in a psychedelic experience when he was doing some of the research back in the 60s and 70s. And just trying to do a bunch of different tests and batteries to see, what could come up, and, not having very great success with that. So this paragraph starts, ironically, when after years of frustrating efforts, I finally found a tool that made such predictions possible. It was more controversial than psychedelics themselves. It was astrology, a discipline that even after years of studying transpersonal phenomenon, I myself tended to dismiss as ridiculous pseudoscience. I came to realize, however, that astrology could be an invaluable tool in the work of both psychedelics and with any forms of non-ordinary or holotropic states of consciousness, such as those induced by powerful experiential techniques of psychotherapy, primal therapy, rebirthing, holotropic breathwork, or occurring spontaneously during psychospiritual crises. The radical change in my attitude towards astrology has been the result of the collaboration with the psychologist and philosopher Richard Tarnas, my close friend and colleague. For over 3 decades, beginning in 1967, we've been jointly exploring our astrological correlates of mystical experiences, psycho-spiritual crises, psychotic episodes, psychedelic states, and holotropic breathwork sessions. This work has shown that astrology, particularly the study of planetary transits, can predict and illuminate both the archetypal content of non-ordinary states of consciousness and the timing of when particular states are most likely to occur. Our systematic study of the correlations between nature and the content of holotropic states and planetary transits convinced me that a combination of deep experiential therapy with archetypal psychology and transit astrology is the most promising strategy for the future development of psychiatry and depth psychology. So I found that to be just a really concise description of why we're doing this, right? So really trying to continue some of Stan's work and his legacy, and really just wanting to educate people around this. So with that said, Renn, I'm going to pass this over to you if you're there, and we'll kick this off. So we're going to be exploring the archetypal weather for February of 2022.
Thank you, Kyle. It's great to be here. That was a very classic paragraph or paragraphs that you just read, and thank you for sharing that. And Alex, great to be doing this with you again.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, so you're back in California.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you want to say something about your class that's coming up?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Alex Stein. I'm an archetypal astrologer and a spiritual coach, teaching what I'm calling 21st century alchemy. So if there's one word that I think maybe is more triggering maybe to skeptical people than astrology, it might be alchemy, because that really seems like a bunch of BS. But, I'm a very skeptical person by nature, and I didn't come to astrology easily. It took some some working with it and imagining it and seeing how it actually shows up in life. And so, I have a kind of a passion actually for talking to people who are really skeptical about it, because I don't really care to convince anybody about it. And honestly, even if you still think it's BS after you hear something like this, there is still a value, I think, in working with this language as a way of understanding something about how our inner world relates to the outer world. And so, this is where I bring the alchemy thing in, because it's really, alchemy in its truest sense was really never about turning lead into gold. It was about a kind of inner process of awakening as your imagination gets stirred up, working with strange matter and everything. And so basically it's a system of teaching you to see anything that happens in the world as a reflection of your inner world, or a reflection of the inner world of other people, and the way that our inner worlds kind of come together to create the world that we live in. And so in the class that I'm teaching, it's going to be looking at it's going to be using astrology as a kind of key to help unlock this connection between the inner and the outer, the above and the below. I'll be using the Emerald Tablet, which is an ancient, very famous alchemical text, as a kind of recipe process for a guide of your own kind of spiritual awakening, and teaching the language of astrology and various practices from different disciplines, talking about psychedelics, different meditation techniques, things like that, to kind of follow this recipe. So that's what I'm up to. And you can find me at 21stcenturyalchemy.com. And that's all spelled out as a word, TWE, etc. So, yeah.
Thanks, Alex. I'm sure that'll be a great course. Just one little reminder, don't inhale the lead.
That's right. And don't try to make the elixir of life out of mercury.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, we're going to dive in to the powerful astrological archetypal alignments for the month of February. We'll focus on the Saturdays, but you can kind of interpolate between those Saturdays if you're doing sessions during the week. And we hope this is helpful and illuminating for you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you can see that?
Yep, we got it.
Great. So it's an unusually rich month for alignments, and I'm sure many people will be having profound and nourishing experiences. The thing that stands out right off the bat for this entire month and for this entire year is Jupiter will be conjoining Neptune. We've been through 3 years of Saturn conjunct Pluto. You can see Saturn's now moved out of orb of Pluto. It's past Pluto. This is like the opposite energy, where Saturn Pluto was like hard labor in the psyche, the concentration camp archetype. Rick Tarnas describes it. Jupiter-Neptune is a sense of abundance, of spiritual plenitude. There can be a feeling of blessed mystery and enchantment, feelings of cosmic safety, higher meaning. It's like the cup runneth over. And this is going to be getting even stronger as the month of February continues. Now, it's a better problem to have, but there certainly is a shadow side of Jupiter-Neptune, like there is with all the archetypal combinations. Watch out for being overconfident. Watch out for feeling so safe that you decide you don't need the usual protocols. You don't need a sitter. You can just walk around the city and, do your therapy that way. Don't recommend that. It's always good to have a proper set and setting. Now, there's also a Sun-Saturn conjunction the beginning of the month, very close here. This can bring up father issues sometimes for people. It's important that male sitters are kind, patient, understanding, in order not to corroborate people's wounds around father. And as always, for the next couple of years, there will be Saturn square Uranus. So this is this interplay between our Saturnian feelings of fear, of defensiveness, our conservative tendencies, groundedness, and between our Uranian tendencies toward adventure, breakthroughs, freedom. And the main takeaway from this one is, if we set up our Cape Canaveral ahead of time, get everything in place, then we have total freedom in consciousness to go wherever the session wants to take us. So that's half the transits for this month, but I'll turn it over to Alex now for a look at some of these as well.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, that Jupiter-Neptune, I've been so looking forward to that, because it's been such a kind of grim few years, and this is really the first kind of long running transit that we're going to have in a long time, that it brings in such a different energy. It's just so expansive and so beautiful and rich, and the possibilities for journeys too. Some, I think, beyond what Renn already mentioned. There can be this real feeling sometimes of like tapping into like trans-dimensional reality with Jupiter-Neptune, this sense that there are layers to reality, there are other beings, all that kind of stuff. So you can have some kind of weird out there stuff that you might not want to share with people after, like aliens came to me and downloaded, ancient scrolls into my brain and stuff like that. But that's a sort of a Jupiter-Neptune thing. It can get kind of out there, but in a, if you're always remembering to remain grounded, no matter how out there you get, I think that's the real key. And so that's where this, I think the Sun Saturn and Saturn Uranus stuff come in as well. Because Saturn in sessions can, of course, relate to feelings of constriction and pain and negative, like with the Sun, negative father issues, a sense of just resistance to wanting to go there, even a kind of hell-like feeling at times of entrapment. But ultimately Saturn's about grounding and responsibility and kind of this world reality. And so it's an interesting, kind of powerful pairing when you think of it that way with the Jupiter-Neptune. Now for a couple of the other transits, we got Mercury, Pluto, and Mercury's the mind, right? Mercury's how we perceive, think, communicate. And Pluto is the planet of depth and power and, intensity and that kind of, as Renn's talked about before on this channel, the BPM-3 kind of, intense life or death struggle kind of energy. So Pluto is this kind of shamanic transformational agent of death and rebirth, right? But when it comes together with Mercury, right, that is coming through the window of the mind itself. And so, the thoughts can take on a kind of obsessive, intense, dark, penetrating kind of a character where a certain insight can kind of drag you down, like which can bring, of course, a lot of fear with it. And particularly, coupled with that Saturn Sun, the feelings of constriction and self-doubt and all that sort of stuff that can come up. There is the potential for some really, really dark thinking to occur. So again, a really good reason to be with a sitter. But at the same time, the other side of Pluto, Pluto's not just about dragging us into the darkness, it's about the transformational power of that. And essentially, I see Pluto as power itself, right? And so much of our issues revolve around power. And a lot of people just think that power's bad. Now, I don't think that power's bad at all, but I think that distorted uses of power are bad. Power is just a fact of existence. Power is what gives life to things. And now, if that's distorted through, all kinds of conditioning and, trauma and gender roles, racism, the whole thing, if that's if that kind of conditioning is distorting the flow of power, then we get messed up lives and we go and mess up other people's lives. But ultimately, what Pluto can bring us is a deep connection back to that kind of power source of creation. And so with Mercury, it has the ability to transform our whole mental process, to really get us to a place where we can realize just what power our mind has over the reality that we experience, and how when our mind runs away with us, we can get dragged into any dark alley, right? But when we kind of purify it and stabilize it, it becomes this amazing ally. Okay. And then finally, the Mercury, I'm sorry, the Venus Mars conjunction, which is going to last basically the next couple of months. And this is a really exciting alignment. This happens about every 2 years, and sometimes they're longer than others. This is a pretty nice long one, because Venus is just going to be coming out of retrograde. And this is basically bringing together the two planets that really form the core of our desire nature, right? Venus is the planet of love and beauty and all the pleasures and the nice things. But at core, Venus is about how we experience love and what we're looking for, right? Which is, now, this whole retrograde period, retrogrades tend to turn the energy of a planet inward, and Venus has been retrograde. And I have loved this period because I've really been meditating on the fact that all comes from within, and that if we're able to get right with what we need and our sense of being loved already and having love within us, then like everything can turn to magic on the outside. We don't need people to be a certain way for us. So that's how I've been thinking with Venus. Now, when Mars comes in, Mars is the planet of like, go and get it. All right. So Mars is our action planet. It's physical vitality. It's very yang, while Venus is yin. And this is essentially like an inner, it's like the sexual union of Shiva and Shakti. And when we're really feeling it on those terms, there's this great creative potential and this great kind of awakening of passion and vitality in us. So it's a beautiful aspect. And on the more kind of everyday, maybe on the shadow side of it, it can also show up as a kind of, sometimes hot-headedness, passionate, hot-headed, like quick to react, quick to get into a fight, but quick to calm down, sort of things. That's the more kind of basic way of looking at it. And it's also just, like lots of fun, with music and dancing and art and socializing and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, turn it back over to you, Renn.
Thank you, Alex. Really great insights. Yeah, it's amazing how this is a very organized chart. It's like there's examples here of all 4 of the perinatal matrices here. Mm-hmm. We've got the Jupiter-Neptune, the womb with the view. This really can create a sense of ultimate cosmic safety and meaning and connection and blessed, ecstatic feelings of unity. Then there's the Sun, Saturn, can inflect things toward BPM2. There's the Mercury, Pluto that Alex talked about. And then there's the Venus, Mars, trine Uranus. So there's a very rich palette of experiences here that people could tap into. And I mean, the most amazing sessions for many people are when they have a range of perinatal and biographical and transpersonal experiences. It's not all just positive, or obviously not all just negative. The typical trajectory is you go into the negative material, you suffer for a while, you face things, and then you break through and have these amazing openings. Now, this Mercury-Pluto that Alex was talking about, it really helps give us a penetrating insight. Pluto is this downward moving vector that takes our awareness, our thinking, Mercury, down into the underworld realms. So it can help us to look at what's in there. Excuse me. This is unusually helpful for powerful verbal catharsis. Mercury, the mouth is one of Mercury's channels of expression, and the BPM-3 energies can be expressed through sound. So yelling, screaming, animal sounds, demonic sounds, whatever's inside wants to come out. And the purification that Alex was talking about, you know, in everyday life, we kind of have to monitor our mind and be aware of it. But in sessions, you want to go into the muck. You want to go into the darkness. There's no reason not to. Sooner or later, you have to face this in your life. Why not in the session that you're in? If you've got a sitter, you've got the time, that's the perfect opportunity to do it. And you give it a voice, give it an outlet. Now, the final major component of the beginning of the month here is, as Alex said, this Venus-Mars conjunction. This can create powerful responses to the music in sessions, the evocative music. It creates a very vital, fun, active social atmosphere. So it would be a great time to have a potluck feast with your friends at the end of the day. Maybe do some dancing, you know, make a playlist of your 10 favorite dance songs, and then whoever wants to dance. It's a really fun way to end a day of deep inner work. There can be, with the trines to Uranus, 120-degree trines to Uranus, there can be breakthroughs of love and friendship. Venus, Uranus is the emancipatory impulse. There can also be breakthroughs of energy with Mars. There's breakthroughs of passion, breakthroughs of anger, and so on. And I want to point out an amazing synchronicity. I watched last night for the second time Bohemian Rhapsody, a real masterpiece if you haven't seen this, a powerful biopic about Freddie Mercury and Queen. And I'm going to pull up his chart for a minute because of the similarities with this chart here. And I want to acknowledge Rick Tarnas, who really is the father of archetypal astrology. One of the things that impressed me about Rick's work was that he could use astrology to illuminate sessions like we're doing here. But at the same time, he could pivot with any of the aspects and talk about their manifestations in culture. Who had it, you know, when, you know, periods when these were aligned in the sky, what happened. And it's this amazing kind of Rosetta Stone for interpreting both the inner world of psyche and the outer world of culture. So let me pull up Freddie Mercury's chart. Oops. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Great. So all the main components of that, the Venus-Mars trine Uranus that are happening in the sky at the beginning of the month are in his chart. You see Venus-Mars trine Uranus. Venus-Mars is also sextiling Jupiter in the sky at the beginning of February, and Jupiter is sextiling Uranus. So it's very similar to what he was born with for his whole life. We can see, just made a few notes here, the Venus-Mars, the determined yearnings for love. You know, he was very open about his, you know, finding someone to love. The Venus-Jupiter is the theatrical, operatic quality, the film star mannerisms, the flamboyant, you know, moving around on stage and so on, this sort of strutting. Venus or Jupiter-Uranus, this soaring crescendos of energy, sort of reaching for the sky, the feelings of exultant glory, and inflected by Mars gives it a sense of militancy or triumph, determined urges toward rebirth. We are the champions, this sort of powerful feeling of BPM-4 overcoming of obstacles. And so this would be a great movie to watch in the first couple of weeks in February, because it contains many of the same elements as what's happening in the sky. And I'll just mention that Brian May was born with a Venus-Jupiter alignment. Also, has this operatic guitar sound, sort of lush, rich sound. He also has the Mars-Uranus conjunction, Brian May, which is the classic lead guitar signature, which is that sort of rush of energy, flashy, electric, kind of heroic energy. Yeah, so I'm going to now go back to.
I just wanted to point out another cool synchronicity with Freddie Mercury, just that he's got a Sun-Mercury conjunction in the Mercury-ruled sign of Virgo. So, and then he was named Freddie Mercury.
Oh, cool. Very good.
Himself that, yeah.
I wonder if he was aware of that. He came up with that name. That wasn't his real last name, obviously.
Yeah.
It was Zoroastrian, from a Persian family, actually. I didn't, most people didn't even realize that till the movie. Quite interesting. Okay, so let us go ahead here to February 13th.
February 12th is the Saturday?
Oh, sorry, you're right. Okay, so there's still this the Jupiter-Neptune is getting closer and closer. This is such a blessed alignment to have, as Alex was talking about, the feeling of cornucopia, of the cup runneth over, the Great Benefic archetype, the sense of safety and plenitude. This will really help sessions to resolve in a positive note. The Sun-Saturn is still conjunct for the first half of February, essentially, maybe even a little longer than the halfway point. So father issues can come up. It's an opportunity for emotional corrective experiences. All you have to do as a male sitter is not hurt the client, basically, not repeat the pattern that the judging, distant, cold father initiated. And sometimes people can get this from clergy or from teachers that are punishing or judging. So it's not that hard to be a sitter. You just have to sort of keep up with your own process, so you're not reacting to situations, that you can just hold the space in an unconditionally supportive way. We still have the Mercury Pluto, the powerful verbal catharsis, sort of mental obsessions, the sort of awareness of BPM-3 themes in our psyches. And then the Venus-Mars is still trining Uranus. This is a wonderful day, though, this February 12th, because the moon lines up, sextiling Uranus, trining Jupiter here, and opposition Venus, Mars. Unusually rich emotional experiences. There can be a lot of emotional breakthroughs here, a vibrant social atmosphere before and after sessions. It's better, obviously, in the session. The least amount of interaction with the sitters as possible is the ideal. It doesn't always work out that way, but a sort of perfect logistical session is the client stays lying down with the eye shades and headphones on and goes through their process, might share a little bit with the sitters here and there, make comments or ask for things, but it's an internalized process. But afterwards, it could be a time of ecstatic reentry, as Stan calls it, where people just can't wait to have fun with their friends, to go for a walk, to have a meal, to do some dancing. things like that. Remember boundaries. There can be such a feeling of hot-blooded fun and vibrancy that people, might get the feeling of it's more exciting to just have this carpe diem kind of go toward gratification feeling, and that's why our sitters need to be sober, so that they can be the adults in the room, so that people remember their boundaries and maintain that trust for following sessions. Alex?
Yeah. All right. So, I think the position of the moon in a chart is really important. And sometimes, I suggest to people who aren't really that conversant with astrology, who are doing journeys, just check out what the moon's doing. Like, what aspects does the moon make? Because the moon is so connected to the basic atmosphere, the basic mood, the basic vibe of whatever's going on. And of course, we're more sensitive to that in psychedelic state. So, the position of the moon in this chart opposite the Venus-Mars conjunction, trine Jupiter, it is really really a beautiful alignment there. I think that it's really going to turn up the volume on that Venus-Mars alignment, so that we can have, Mars moon can bring like big emotional catharsis, right? Like Mars is always the movement of energy in some direction, and with the moon, it's movement of energy on that most basic emotional level, right? So any way that we've been bottled up, any way that we just have not found expression, that emotion's been kind of tight within us, it can release. And then the other side of that with Venus is that Venus can bring this kind of restoring quality. Venus brings things back into harmony. Venus is the harmonizer. So it's like, where Mars can break and let energy through, Venus can come and soothe. So, of course, one of the major ways that that's done, as Renn was talking about, is, relationally, and there will be this strong urge to want to just rip off the blindfold and, and party. But I do think that save it for after the journey, and also before the journey. Like I think it's a good opportunity to kind of connect, and it's important to connect and kind of like let yourself kind of soak in the good vibes prior. Dancing also huge with Mars and Venus, and I think just generally, dancing is just one of the best ways to kind of change our mood, raise our energy, kind of tilt things to the positive. Like I was born with a Venus-Mars conjunction, and I know, like, I make a point of it. It's like a practice of mine to dance for like 20 minutes every day, because I'm in such a better shape if I do that. So, bearing in mind that over the next couple of months, this conjunction's in effect, it's a good way to get yourself in, like, prepared for a journey. It's a good way to come back from a journey. It's a good way to just, it's part of the integration process. Like, energy wants to move and connect to our emotions, connect to our body, all of that. Yeah, and then Moon Jupiter again. Some of my own experiences. It's been this simple. On a day that the moon's aligned with Jupiter, my heart is like a million miles wide. On a day that the moon's aligned with Saturn, and so that's why I encourage people who are just learning to do this. Just check out the moon. It's as simple as that. Like, if it's moon, see what happens. See how you feel with Moon Jupiter. So again, Moon Jupiter is going to really make you want to connect, right? Want to connect and relate to others. And so it's a great idea afterward, as I think Renn might have already mentioned, to enjoy, enjoy the abundance of life, basically, upon your return. Have a nice big meal, get together with friends. A great Moon Jupiter movie, it's called Babette's Feast. And if you haven't seen that, I really recommend it. It's basically about a woman who she's like a fine French chef who's kind of like gone into hiding like during revolutionary times, and she's living in Denmark as a maid to some very puritanical Danish people who are like very buttoned up and cut off from life, and nobody knows who she really is, but she decides to give them the gift of this beautiful meal, and it like transforms their existence. And so yeah, that always comes to mind for me when I think of Moon Jupiter. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, they should make a sequel to that one. Babette's Feast 2, second course.
The second.
Yeah. Classic. So thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let us go ahead here to the full moon. On the Wednesday, on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, the 15th and the 16th, the moon and sun will be in opposition. This will be a more Saturnian full moon. So if you like the feeling of Saturn, you like the sort of capacity to do the deep and sustained focused introspection, this full moon will support that. It's not the most exuberant full moon with Saturn aspecting both the sun and Saturn. Any thoughts on that, Alex?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I just mentioned the Moon Saturn versus Moon Jupiter thing. I think for people who are really engaged in a practice of regular journey work, it can be really useful to specifically do journeys on like Moon Jupiter or Moon Saturn days, because really Saturn and Jupiter represent the basic principles of Saturn contraction, Jupiter expansion, right? Contraction and expansion is like in-breath, out-breath. It's part of the rhythm of existence, and really tuning into that is really important. And so, in the inner work, we need that deep and sustained introspection, that ability to kind of bear down and like, suffer the force and all the pressures and everything. Just as we need at other times to just, relax and just let it all out and let it all in. And so, yeah. But I would say on that day, yeah, definitely it's going to be a Saturnian day because we've got both the moon and the sun involved in it. So it can relate to both, mother and father issues. It can, if you're a particularly Saturnian person, like if Saturn's big in your own chart, or if you don't know your chart, but you tend to be a kind of, you have tendencies towards self-judgment, self-criticism, wanting to please people in authority, wanting to be seen as somebody of stature and things like that, then you probably do have a kind of pronounced Saturn. It can be very, 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 very healing to go in and experience the full pressure of that in a session, because otherwise, you're experiencing it your whole life, right? And I'll just say, like, I was born with Saturn rising, and I no longer feel like this, although I spent a good deal of my life feeling like this, and that's the general kind of prescription for Saturn rising people. So, I can attest to the efficacy of going in and feeling that weight. So, yeah.
Yeah, good points. And Stan makes the comment that we can never escape our karma, but we can condense it into manageable time frames when it's convenient for us to really face it and suffer. And it's better to really put aside a day, a month, or every couple of weeks or whatever, to really go into our pain, rather than have to leak out every minute of every day. So that's the basic idea with Saturn. I just want to again emphasize how vibrant the transits are for the first half of the month. And please write comments after this video, like share your experiences. We would really love to hear what it was like for you, if there was any corroboration in the things that we've talked about.
I want to just say one more thing. There is a real beauty, like you already mentioned earlier, in just having this array of different energies, because like when you can really feel, the full kind of brunt of Saturn moon, Saturn sun constriction, and then that kind of like deeply, intense Pluto Mercury of like these deep, dark, penetrating insights into the shadow dimensions of things, and that kind of exorcist style, cathartic kind of vocalization thing. And then, when all of that kind of starts to resolve, then, you've got this you got Jupiter-Neptune there waiting for you. You've got Mars-Venus there, trine Uranus waiting there for you. And it's a really nice transition. So.
Yeah, it's a very positive trajectory. Yeah. Kyle, are we good for like 7 or 8 more minutes?
Yeah, we can go.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so here we are on the 3rd Saturday of February, the 19th. So one of the things that stands out here is the Venus-Mars is now beginning to conjoin Pluto. And Pluto can intensify the Venus-Mars. This is a very conducive energy for working through sexual issues and traumas that can bring up intense Dionysian feelings, sexual arousal. This is a standard part of BPM-3 that Stan talks about. This is like the classic kind of BPM-3 combination for facing those kind of Dionysian feelings. The sun is also beginning to conjoin the Jupiter-Neptune here, and it's an exact midpoint situation as well as the sun. Neptune's a little wide, but it's now beginning to be a triple conjunction, a feeling of blessed abundance, higher meaning spread through the creation. There can be a sense of meaning emanating from the divine through every molecule of creation, like the noble grand sun shining and illuminating, the entire universe. We can get in touch with the good father archetype, capital G, capital F. It doesn't have to be hitting anything in your chart, even though that will intensify it in many ways and inflect it in certain directions. Just the fact that this is happening as a world transit, you are going to be feeling this almost certainly in your life and in your sessions to some degree. This is a wonderful antidote to father issues, and the sun Saturn is virtually finished at this point. So, if you have memory systems, coex systems in your psyche rooted in a punishing, judging, cool, distant, or absent father, you're gonna, from this point on in the month, begin to notice that there's a tremendous healing energy that can be like a corrective for that. The masculine principle in the universe is not as important in perinatal sessions as the feminine principle. I mean, at the perinatal layer of the psyche, our problems are essentially all with the mother, not only our biological mother, but with the great mother archetype, with the forces of life and death. The father archetype, or the masculine principle, is connected with pattern, with meaning, with the pattern behind things, not the biology and the emotion and the energy so much as the blueprint behind that. That is the masculine archetypal principle. Also with purpose, the direction of things. In the matriarchal cultures, life was seen as a circle, as like continuous recycling of consciousness in a circle. And for the patriarchal minds in the monotheistic religion, time now became linear, that you're moving from a state toward another state, and it would often be a kind of an ascending line. I think that's kind of a wishful thinking in a way, but both are true to some degrees in various ways. So yeah, Alex, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this chart does have a very interesting balance of the masculine and feminine principles, which I want to just be really clear. It does not mean male and female. I just don't want anybody to get hung up on that. But basically, for those of us who are kind of, interested in like a tantric philosophy, this is a real kind of Shiva Shakti chart where Shiva represents the masculine principles, which we got with Sun, Jupiter, Neptune. But Shiva is basically just inert consciousness, just the kind of transcendent consciousness behind everything, right? But then Shakti, which we really see with this Venus, Mars, Pluto, is the power of existence itself. So the whole idea in that philosophy is consciousness and power together make existence. Right. And it's true, the wounding that we have exists on that Shakti level. It's the embodied level. It's the power of manifestation, right? Which comes through our physical being, our sexuality, our emotions connect our physical being to our more mental being. But here again with Pluto, it's about deep purification and transformation, and which helps us to connect to that power in a more clear and pure way. And so yes, with Mars and Venus, Pluto can really bring in issues of sexual wounding, issues of abandonment, jealousy, betrayal, compulsion, possessiveness. Venus Pluto is like the fatal attraction type of alignment. In fact, Glenn Close has a Venus Pluto alignment on her ascendant. And so also Beauty and the Beast, right? Transformative power of love, Pluto being the beast, the instincts, all that stuff that just makes life painful and messy. But then when transformed, it just opens us up to just a whole new level of being, which then, sits there like Shiva is just, in eternal meditation, Sun, Jupiter, Neptune, just clear and open. And when we're able to kind of balance these two, it's like, then we have the open perspective and the embodied power to like live in this beautiful way. So yeah, I just want to put that out there as a kind of like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to be your experience in a journey, but it's there, and it's behind everything, and it's something to kind of think about. So yeah.
Good points. There's also a Mercury square Uranus kicking in. This can bring out elements of humor, cosmic humor, fun surprises in session, sudden mental emancipation, aha moments. Just what Alice was talking about, the betrayal feelings connected with possibly Venus, Mars, Pluto. This has deep perinatal roots in BPM3 because of the sexual arousal that's happening in the birth canal caused by the choking and the suffocation, the lack of oxygen. And yet it's that sexual experience is happening in the context of the life-threatening suffocation, of the intense constriction and pressure. And so this is a powerful prototype of sexuality is dangerous. that sex and death are connected, sex and aggression are connected. And this is, Stan found this was a logical clinical prototype for, excuse me, problems of sadomasochism, sex and aggression and other things. And this could be an unusually rich time for the rest of this month, from this point on, a little bit earlier than this in the month, actually, to explore those issues. And Stan writes about this in Beyond the Brain, in LSD psychotherapy, and in Psychology of the Future, I believe. Okay, so let's look at February 27th. So, wow, look at this. Venus, Mars, Pluto, Moon. Oh, that's the Sunday. Still happening on the Sunday, and certainly on the Saturday. So, in archetypal astrology, we kind of pare things down to their core meanings. It's simpler in some ways. There are fewer moving parts, but because of what Rick calls multivalence, a wide range of possible expressions of these archetypes, and they're also multi-leveled. It takes a long time to learn what all the various possibilities are, to sort out the priorities and the various weightings of things. But one of the simpler parts of archetypal astrology is that whenever you see one of the outer planets involved in alignment, that provides the dominant character of that alignment. So, from Saturn through Pluto. So Pluto is involved in this quadruple stellium. This is essentially a Plutonic aspect. And all the great insights that Rick and Stan developed and had from the perinatal research and correlations you can apply to understanding this. This is a great BPM3 archetype, an opportunity for death rebirth experiences, for powerful driving evolutionary forces pushing us through our wounds and out the other side, for volcanic releasing and abreaction of energies of catharsis. Now, with the moon, unusually, rich and potent couple of days here, Saturday and Sunday. The moon can inflect things toward the feminine. It can bring in elements of nurture, of kindness. People can realize that they can feel their powerful, aggressive feelings left over from birth, ambivalent sexual feelings, maybe even sadomasochistic feelings. Also with Pluto, demonic and scatological themes, and yet be accepted, be supported by the sitters, that these are understandable, natural emotions and energies based on this powerful, life-threatening event. The moon can bring in the support and the maternal kindness which can also come through our male sitters to support us. Moon is also trining Uranus here. There can be emotional breakthroughs. Now, well, I'll let Alex, there's more here, but I'll let Alex jump in at this point.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say too, just how incredibly powerful that lineup of planets is with the moon in there. Because really, when the moon gets involved, the most powerful healing can occur. It's a little bit like, I don't know, I feel sort of like the Johnny Cochran of astrology when I say feeling is healing, but it's really true. If most of our issues, when we're talking about perinatal, however we want to look at it, come down to not allowing ourselves to go there, right? We're scared to feel what we're going to feel if we go where we're being taken, right? And so we avoid. And the beauty with Moon Pluto generally, right, is on the one hand, we're terrified of going there, right? But then when we do, it's like we've got this incredible power backing us up to fully go there, to fully experience, fully feel what we need to feel. And I think it's just important, if you are in a hard place, if a lot of stuff's up for you right now, if you're finding yourself really triggered, living in the triggering times that we do, it's important to realize that healing of this kind is possible. So just bear that in mind always, that no matter where you are in your journey around this, healing is really possible. And I think sometimes, during really triggering times like this, we can get so focused on our wounds and so identified with our wounds that we don't really believe that we can heal them. And so, I just want to reiterate the power of, doing journeys like this in general, but also, Moon Pluto is such an amazing opportunity. If you've got a guide and you're really willing to go there, you might have all the voices in your head screaming at you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But if you're well prepared, if you've got the right sitter, do it. You'll be well rewarded. Yeah. And then another thing I want to say is just this, Mercury, Saturn. Mercury and Saturn, when we bring those together, there can be like a very sustained kind of mental focus that can go on, because Saturn is that kind of grounded, rigorous energy, and Mercury is the mind. Can also skew negative. So just, particularly with this like really intense emotional atmosphere of this day, watch that the mind doesn't skew negative. You can get into negative mental thought loops, things like that. It's again, that's when it's helpful to have somebody around who if you're really like locked up in that, who can just kind of gently, give you some reassurance. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, you mentioned Johnny Cochran, and I just thought of like, if the astrological glove fits, then wear it. This is for some of your skeptics out there that they're sort of stuck at this stage. It just doesn't fit. Anyways, so yeah, really good points. Now the Mercury Saturn, as Alex rightly described, there can be feelings of mental constriction, worry. Sometimes people can have, negative thoughts before going into a session. Like there can be warnings, come to them. And these are often stressful moments when you have to make a decision whether to go ahead with the session. If I have if you have a voice in your head warning you or in some way, I don't think you can necessarily assume that is the right advice. You can live with scary feelings or scary voices. What I would recommend coming back to is, if you have a trusting relationship with your sitter, then it's safe to go ahead with it. To talk to your sitter about your fears. If they will sit with you and listen and take the time to respond and reassure you, then you're probably good to go. It's very normal with Mercury Saturn to have these kind of warning feelings inside, and that you can have that and then have a spectacular session. But if the warning is, the sitter just doesn't seem to quite understand the value of the catharsis, I don't know if they really understand my needs of certain kinds to be supported, then maybe they're not the right sitter for you. Mercury Saturn is squaring Uranus. There can be mental tensions. You can go back and forth between states of constriction and states of emancipation. There can be pressure and then suddenly resolution from that pressure. And then finally, the Sun, Jupiter, Neptune is beginning to get quite close here. And this is going to be continuing for the first half of March as well. Unusually warm, lush, abundant energies, a sense of meaning permeating the creation, feeling of optimism, of joy, the joy of living, ultimate cosmic safety, like the universe is a great folk festival or ashram or celebration. All that's really happening is adventures in consciousness. Spirit is just trying on different clothes. That's the transcendent perception of sort of the deepest truth about the universe. The sense of radiant meaning emanating forth, and walks in nature at the end of the day after the processing's done, if it's still light out, or even if it isn't, can be just so satisfying with this. You can feel that nature is this vessel for divine spirit. Yeah, we hope this has been helpful for you. Alex, any final comments on this day or month?
No, I think I'm good. I think it is a very it's a particularly good month. I think it's a particularly interesting month. I really like.
Seems very rich. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good combination of energies. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. You know, considered taking this month off of doing this, but the transits were just too interesting, and it's amazing, these conjunctions, these organized bunchings of archetypes here. I mean, just looking at this, I'm kind of astounded.
That was really interesting.
I highly recommend exploring these if you have a trustworthy sitter. We wish everybody safe and effective healing journeys, and please write comments in YouTube after this. Anything that fits what we've said or doesn't fit, we'd really love to hear that. It enriches everybody's experience a lot. So thank you very much, Kyle. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Renn.
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. And as Renn mentioned, be sure to leave a comment below, like it, subscribe to our channel. And any last thoughts, any upcoming events? Alex, sounds like you have a course coming up, and Renn, I know you're kind of in the middle of your course, but yeah, any other announcements that you guys want to toss out there?
Well, the course, I'm looking to launch it in either April or May. Again, it's called 21st Century Alchemy, and it's basically about how to bridge the inner and the outer, how to awaken new spiritual levels of insight within yourself, but then how to bring them back into the world and how to live from that place in a very practical, kind of grounded way. So it's a strange and hopefully interesting mix of some out there stuff, but some very practical and down to earth stuff that should be interesting, and I think very enriching to some people. So again, just you can visit me at 21stcenturyalchemy.com, all spelled out.
I highly recommend that course. Alex is one of our most dedicated and knowledgeable colleagues for sure. And he's has experiences of what he is talking about. It's not just book knowledge. So yeah, I highly recommend anything that he's doing. I'm about to start revamping my Mayan macro astrology article based on comments and feedback from Rick Tarnas. I'm going to make Cosmos and Psyche ties it, make it more in the sort of the order that he presents his research. I just got accepted into the PhD program of Ubiquity University, so I'll be involved with that. And we're talking about, what's that? Yeah, thank you. We're talking about creating a new archetypal astrology or archetypal cosmology program, and maybe even for bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. I'm not really sure, but hoping Alex will be involved in that, and all my other colleagues who are interested. I also have an early bird rate for my new course, my online course, which will be starting in September. If people want to sign up early for that, there's a good discount. So thank you, Kyle. This is a real privilege, and we hope that this is helpful for people and meaningful. So thank you very much.
Renn. Thank you, Alex. And all right, we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.